Hey mates, and welcome to More Meets the Eyes. I'm your host Blind Prime, and this is my co-host Cream the Cat. He may pop in from time to time throughout the video. We never know with him. Today's video is going to be on the Cobra Flight-Pod. I have the Python Patrol Edition, but the color doesn't really matter. There's not anything different between the Python Patrol Edition and the regular edition from what I... Hi, Cream. No! Why did you knock over... Why did you knock over Scrap Iron? Why did you knock over Scrap Iron? What do you have against Scrap Iron, huh? What do you got against Scrap Iron? Move out of the way, man. No, now I'm knocking things over. Look at this. Look at this. You're setting up a bad precedent for the rest of the video. And I'm just... Everything's going to start falling. Everything's going to start tilting over. You're a cyclone of disaster. I guess we could shift the trouble bubble into the center of the screen. Thing is, Cream's done messed up my flow. Darn it, Cream. So, today's video is about the trouble bubble, the Cobra Flight-Pod, and the Tele-Viper who rides in the trouble bubble, the Cobra Flight-Pod. I like calling it a trouble bubble because it's just a fun thing to say. It just makes you mad, laugh kind of when you say it. Trouble bubble. Trouble bubble. You end with a smile, and I appreciate words that end in a smile, even if they're flown by terrorist organizations like Cobra. So today's video will be me going over this thing in depth, and if you want to know how I built it, check out yesterday's video, the Blind Builds episode on the Trouble Bubble, and I will go over step by step how to assemble this thing from the parts and pieces you get into the Trouble Bubble that you may or may not be able to see in front of you right now. Comes with a bomb, and I guess that's the first thing we should talk about when it comes to the trouble bubble, is let's talk about the things that are outside the trouble bubble, and then we'll talk about the things inside the trouble bubble. So on the exterior of the trouble bubble, it's just one of the things laying around is this really neat bomb. And funny thing about this, I almost picked up tripwire from the Acme Superstore. They had a tripwire there, and I was like, I've really been wanting a tripwire, and it came with all this stuff, and I was like, oh, that's cool. But part of me was like, but I don't have any sort of bomb or anything like that for him to mess with. So what would Tripwire really be doing? He'd just kind of be sitting there, and I don't really have much for Tripwire to do. And then we get this in the Cobra Flight-Pod that I bought at the same store. And if I'd actually researched the Cobra Flight-Pod beforehand, more in depth, I would have remembered that it came with a bomb, and I would have been like, oh, I need to pick up Tripwire if I'm getting this. So if you feel on the bomb that comes with this, and you'll see why I want the tripwire. There's a little cut in the plastic, and if you bring your fingernail in there, you can kind of, and it's a little difficult to do, but you can peel up an entire corner of the bomb, a little side of it. Come on, there it goes. And once you peel this piece out, you've got in here a few wires and what feels like a control mechanism. And that's some detail right there. Yeah, there's a little control mechanism in there. And this would be what you would you position Tripwire's robot to be trying to disarm, is you could have the little robot sitting there and his little arm come in and try to disarm this. And now I'm really excited to try and get a hold of a Tripwire because I have this bomb that Tripwire can mess with. And I love that aspect of the G.I. Joe Classified series, how these things are all designed to work together. You see, I now want a tripwire because I have a bomb for tripwire to defuse. And I have a bomb for tripwire to defuse because I wanted a Cobra Flight-Pod. And I wanted a Cobra Flight-Pod because I got the Cobra Rattler and I wanted something to fly alongside the Cobra Rattler. And also, it's the Cobra Flight-Pod. It is the quintessential G.I. Joe vehicle. So let's put this little panel back on, and I really like the little panel. It is hard to open, but it also means that it doesn't just come open if this thing falls, which is nice because it's a small panel, and I'd be terrified of losing it. So I'm really happy that it is hard to open. Now, around on this thing, we have these different little spikes, and I'm paying it. Hi, Cream. Why did you just try to stand on the Cobra Flight-Pod? You were being a butt today. You knocked off one of the little bombs on the side again. Why did you do that, Cream? Yeah. You just go down, lay on the floor. Being weird. I think he's upset because I took him out of his sand pit and brought him into the studio. My cat has a favorite sand pit, and if he doesn't get his his hours upon hours of time sleeping in the sand pit a day, he is not a happy camper. What was I doing? Right, I was reaching over here and trying to find my G.I. Joe Classified Blast Effect container. Here it is. And in this, I have different blast effects for G.I. Joe Classified series, and some of them apply here. So, we've got this one specifically. So this is that big blast, the big broad blast, and you can actually plug it in to, there's a little port on the thing. And I thought that this could plug into that little port. Maybe I'm wrong. Huh. I guess I am wrong. I thought that would be able to plug in, because it feels like it's a port to plug these things in at. Oh, that's a shame. That is a shame. Do we have anything else? We got this one. Maybe this one will work. No, no, that's sad. I made myself a little sad because I was really hoping that would work, and that would be kind of cool. But we have these other blast effect that came with another toy effects that I got, and this one does kind of work. It does plug into the spiky bits, but so sadly you can't plug any of the blast effects that we've gotten so far in the G.I. Joe line into this. Wait, this one has a little hole in the end. Maybe the 4 blast effect, the muzzle flash blast effect, will plug in. Will it? It does. We got muzzle flash blast effect can plug into it, but not into the little hole bit that I found. It can actually plug into one of the spikes. All of these spikes it has on the sides have most of these spikes actually are blast effect compatible. Oh, that's where that ammo pack went. I was like, I found a gun the other day, didn't have an ammo pack with it, and I guess I found an ammo pack that didn't have a gun with it, and I put the ammo pack in my blast effect box. So that's something you can do with the bomb, and something else you can do with the bomb is you can flip the flight pod upside down, and we can plug the bomb into the bottom of the gun, and I explained this in yesterday's video. There we go. Bomb plugged into the bottom of the gun, and it sits pretty effectively. Look at that. Nice. Now, we have these 2 other heads, and I talked about them a little bit, and these are the heads that go with the Tele-Viper. I ended up choosing the giant sunglasses, or the giant glasses head. This one is a half face mask. You got something that covers his eyes. It's really smooth and slick, and we talked about that in yesterday's video. And then here it's something similar. Like, both of these are very, very close to one another in sculpt wise. I don't really know the difference between them, actually. These heads feel like they are exactly the same. They are. Huh, that's weird. Why do we get 2 heads that are exactly the same? I guess they're different. I don't know. What's up with these heads? Let me know in the comments below. Why are they the same? So that's that, and maybe it's the color of the skin. Maybe that's the thing. So what else came with it? Oh, right, this fun little backpack and gun. Now we can go a little more in depth today on this. This backpack is quite interesting. It doesn't really have as many textures as we've seen in the past, but this feels more like a less like a cloth backpack and more like something solid and made of metal that actually has multiple purposes. And you see with the crazy sonic gun he's got that this backpack is actually supposed to be some sort of generator for power. It's just a big old power generator backpack, and judging by the antenna, it also has communications gear in it, and it's a little rounded. It makes me think of a thorax for an insect with how it's layered as the layers go down, and the fact that these, I initially thought it was some sort of jetpack because of the way that these lines are cut into the plastic down here. Made me think jet engine, but that's not the case. It's actually supposed to be the power conduction area for the sonic gun. I'm assuming sonic gun. I'm not really sure what type of gun this is, but The gun itself is from the days of insane amounts of rubberized plastic, but I love G.I. Joe Classified can get away with all this rubber, but we still don't get rubber wheels in our Transformers. Uh, so this one actually had some really nice etch work in the sides. We get something etched into the side of the barrel that feels like it's an emblem, and there's a little more etching around on the sides, but there's not really that much. The gun here is very lackluster, and the backpack has more texturing on it. It's very nice feeling. I like that it feels like a little control panel at the top of the backpack, so that this feels like something you can just set on the ground and he can use as its own little stationary platform. So that's the gun and the backpack. Let's get to the thing I really am excited to talk about, and I know that you're excited to hear about. And I knocked that missile over. Let's talk about the missile real quick. So the missile for this guy has some really nice detail in it. We know that it's not really a missile. It's more like a bomb, because the back here where it should have some sort of effect or like a little engine, it doesn't. It just kind of tapers in and is very well rounded. So there is a kind of a little bit there. What is that? Maybe that's a blast effect. Let's see. Bring out the container again and knock that something over. Let's see. All right, so we're just going to grab a random effect and please be something useful. That will work. So let's see. Oh, it's blast effect compatible. That's cool. So we got this thing, and then we can plug. Oh, we can plug muzzle flare into it. Look at that. We can plug. It's blast effect compatible. That's cool. Yeah, I saw it here first, Blind Prime, because I don't think anyone else has really mentioned that. Look at that. That's neat. So you can plug in some blast effects to these missiles to give them the impression of flying off. And that is something I approve of. It uses the blast effects that we've already acquired through the collection of G.I. Joe Classified. That's really nice. That's a fun little blast effect on the end. Sweeping lines. I like that. I like that a lot. That's cool. So that is something you can do, and that is really nice. We can just keep that little blast effect plugged in for now, because I like it. I think it makes it look like, gives it an action scene kind of thing. So let's spin it around and plug that back. Well, we'll plug that back in later. So we're going to set that off to the side. The missile itself, like I said, it's a small one. There's not too much detail. Where's our bat? Here's our bat here. He's our go-to for size comparisons, right? And what do you have to say about this missile, bat? What do you think? Yeah, and if I were to put it against his belt at the bottom of it on his belt, the top of it will go nearly to the top of his head. So this is a missile that definitely can take out a bat, but maybe not a dragonfly. Maybe it would actually hurt the dragonfly, but it wouldn't unless it hit it in a special spot. But that's kind of cool. So comparing sizes, we bring in the bat, and the bat, he actually can look over the top of the Cobra Flight-Pod, because the Cobra Flight-Pod is actually really low to the ground. It isn't that big of a vehicle. Lengthwise, he is longer, actually, longer than the Cobra Flight-Pod. So the Cobra Flight-Pod isn't it's like 5 inches long, and it's more like 5 inches tall, maybe 5.5 inches tall. Widthwise, it's definitely more on the ends of 4 inches wide. So that's the Cobra Flight-Pod. And now let's talk about its detail and knock that bomb off the bottom. So first off, rubberized gun. I hate it. But this of course comes out in the time of rubberized guns, and I'm hoping that we do get another Flight-Pod in the future that doesn't have such a rubberized gun and actually has a really nice one that's made of plastic. But the rubberized gun does feel good. It's got some good little effects on it. Is it blast effect compatible? That's a great question. Thank you for asking. Let's take a look. Unplug that blast effect from the back of the missile. And does it plug into the front of this gun? Yes, it does. Blast effect compatible. Nice. I appreciate that. I always love me some good blast effects. And the gun has some wonderful little detailing at the front. We get this crazy cone shape. little vents all around the edges of the cone. Back here, we've got more in-depth detailing. There's lines and etchings and cooling vents and stuff going all down this laser gun. As I assume, shooting lasers, it gets really hot, so it's got to have a lot of cooling capabilities. Um, Now we see his feet just kind of hanging off on either side, right above this gun. Like, oh man, the soles of his feet must get warm. But then again, you're flying around in really cold. You're up there, so it could get kind of chilly. So shooting this gun off all the time allows the heat to come up and kind of build up in the bubble, and that would really help him out. Now, this would not be a fun weapon to use in a tropical area, but definitely up north in more temperate zones, I see this as being very useful. So coming down here to the skids, they did the rivets again. I love it when they do these rivets. They did so many rivets. These skids has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 rivets going all the way down. So, yeah, 10 rivets. 10 rivets going all the way down the length of the skid. I love it. Sadly, the control skids on the back that control the flow of the jet propulsion don't have rivets on them, but the front skids do, and that was cool. They didn't have to do that, but that was awesome. Flipping it upside down, on the underside of the vehicle, we get some etchings. We get some really cool stuff, and this is a part where I was like, oh, I really wish that the bomb actually plugged into the underside, and it plugs into the back of the gun, which is a shame. Like, it makes more sense if it plugged into the underside of this vehicle mode. Somewhere down here, if they had a little pinhole to plug that in, that would have been nice. The little skids and that. And those are some good details down there. We got this big circle bit. We've got some more rivets, big rivets down here, big old bolts actually, holding everything together. That's so cool. Oh, that's some detail. On the back, we've got these engines, and the engines have 2 rows of bolts going up the sides of the engines. These are bigger than rivets. That's why I'm calling them bolts. They feel bigger than these guys down here. That's really nice. We got some more detail around the back. We've got the vents on the backs of each of these things. We've got these little line work happening. There's an inset little rectangular area for, I guess, air intake or something. I don't know, but I love it. All this thing is missing is a gas can cap somewhere. Like, how did I refill it? Unless that's what these little circles are up here towards where the armrest would be on the outside of it. We come around here to the other side. At the top of the jet engines, we have these 2 little cones and the air intake around the cones, so air goes down into them and comes out the bottom. They're just giant propulsion fans. On the side, I'm wondering if we're going to see some similar textures and sculpt work in the Rattler engines. That's what I'm excited about with these engines here, is I'm wondering how close to the Rattler engines these will be, or how close to the Rattler engine, how close to the Trouble Bubble engines will the Rattler engines be? That's the correct way to say that line. Coming around here to the other side, the non-missile side, because that fell off, we've got these little line works and these etchings over here on the side, which actually weren't anything that I could plug anything into. It's just some really intricate sculpt work that confused me on the blind builds episode, but still looks really nice and it feels really cool. I'd like to know if it makes a shape or something, but it feels really neat. It's just really odd. So that is the exterior from all around. I know, very small exterior. Then we have this big glass globe at the top, which is about as big as my cupped hand. You cup my hand, and it can fit in there. It feels like it's the helmet. Oh, you know what? This could be a great helmet for Black Zarek. Like, if you take off Black Zarek's little earpieces, this could fit over his head pretty well. And it's actually got around the same sculpt width as the head for the HasLab Sentinel, because I've managed to put my hands on that head before, and this feels very similar to that size. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I think it'd be kind of a fun kit bash to just put a Cobra Flight-Pod instead of a HasLab Sentinel head. That would be kind of a neat little kit bash, but you can pull this piece back, it unlatches, there's a latch on each side. This is some thick, high quality clear plastic. Like, this isn't that stuff they use for the Transformers. This stuff is heavy, It's thicker. I think this will last a good long while. I mean, if I'm wrong about that, I'm wrong. But here we go. Inside the vehicle, we've got the Tele-Viper, and he is holding on to the motorcycle grips that are the handles for the Flight-Pod. And I like this little joystick area, this entire control yoke, if you will, for the Cobra Flight-Pod. We've got some really cool textures going up the entire front of it. I like the pattern there, and more rivets, little rivets going all the way up the front. It's got this fun little snake pattern, and I love that. It feels like the underside of a snake scale. So you got that, you know how they have that banded scale on the underside. So you got 1 band, 2 band, 3 band, 4, 5, almost 5 bands. So 4 bands going up the length of this to make it the inside, and then you've got this area here that kind of flourishes out um, like a cobra hood. I love how they managed to get the snake theming in here, even whenever it doesn't really need snake theming. They managed to just squeak in some snake theming. It's so fun. And then you got these the lights here at the front, and of course the handlebars. Not really much detail, not much sculpted in detail in the handlebars here, which is a shame. I think it would they you know, the Tele-Viper deserves some grips, and it's a shame they didn't give him any grips. On the inset of the yoke, we don't really have any textures. That's actually some negative space there, which is a shame. Now, let's go ahead and unplug him from his straps. I like that we got some straps here to plug him in, and they are just as annoying as the straps for the Dragonfly and the Hiss tank. They won't stop being annoying, but I don't mind them too much. So we're going to set Tele-Viper off to the side. Let's go ahead and just kind of stand you up so you can stand over here to the side, and I will finish talking about the trouble bubble, and we'll get to you. So on the inside of the trouble bubble, where the pilot was sitting, we have these 2 straps that are very well detailed. They feel like straps, like cloth straps actually. Feeling them in depth, they feel like they're made of well, like the car seatbelts. That's kind of the same texture I'm getting from these guys. Even to the all the stitch work to hold in the folded sections. I'm even feeling that stitch work there. That's really nice. Yeah. Really, you included the stitching. And then we have the little belt buckle. There's a big old button to press. That doesn't work, of course, but still, that's nice. And then, of course, we got the same texturing up here at the top. On the inside, the seat has some basic texturing to it. You can feel like the seat is mainly made of materials that aren't too soft, because it's got to deal with a lot of it's got to deal with a lot of environment. And this isn't a sealed capsule, so these seats have got to deal with a lot, and that means that they're going to have to be more rugged, which kind of associates to this is not a very comfy seat for anyone to sit in. I'm getting the impression that the Cobra Flight-Pod is cool, but it's not cool to fly. Doesn't seem like it. There's no vents on the inside for heat. Noticing that, like, there's nothing here to give them any sort of air conditioning at all, or of any sort, heat or otherwise. Nuts. Yeah, there's no vents for AC or heat. It's just deal with it. You Tele-Vipers, deal with it. So we're gonna set the Cobra Flight-Pod off to the side and talk about the Tele-Viper now. Wherever he went, why did you fall? Here, got the Tele-Viper here. And Tele-Viper, I gave him the crazy big VR glasses because I think they give him more character. At least for my blind self, they give him more character. I like that he's got 2 big old bolts, one on either side of the glasses, like they're bolted into his head. That's kind of cool. The head sculpt here for the big old glasses one is really neat. I like the back of it, how the helmet feels real sci-fi, science fiction. And it works for the type of vehicle that he's flying. The Trouble Bubble is straight up a sci-fi vehicle. It's a fun sci-fi vehicle, but sci-fi nonetheless. We've got some sort of flight armor that he's wearing, lightweight armor, but it feels like it can withstand some impacts from small arms fire. And He's got pockets, which I'm assuming he keeps hand warmers in because, he's always got his hands out and there's nothing to cool them. So you better be wearing gloves, my friend. You better be wearing gloves. I like that he has a little an altimeter thing that we've seen with ripcord and stuff. Any of the GI Joes that parachute, they also have this device on their wrist, and he has one on his wrist because there's not really an altimeter in that flight pod, so you got to carry it yourself. That flight pod's pretty limited on its dials. And on the other side, he's got a little watch so he can keep close to mission time. He's wearing a skin tight outfit, but he's got another pocket on his bicep. Articulation wise, it's everything we've come to love and expect in G.I. Joe Classified. Double jointed elbows, pinless joints all the way, just wonderful stuff. The hands rotate around. I wish that they had given him C clips. That's my only, that is my constant complaint with G.I. Joe. I just want C clips. I want C hands. I don't want fists. I don't want trigger fingers. I just want some C hands for my vehicle people. Like, he doesn't need a trigger finger. I'm never going to have him outside of the flight pod. Okay, that's a lie. We're supposed to be getting a Baroness that's decked out in aircraft gear. She's actually going to be flying the flight pod. The Tele-Viper's only there temporarily. So let's continue talking about the Tele-Viper. We've got some wonderful stuff here on his chest. Really great armor. I like that he doesn't have butterflies, but he does have some armor movement. He can bend backwards pretty far. He doesn't have a ball joint in there though, sadly. He does have a bit of a rotation back and forth, but not really as much as you would like. He's really stiff in the core area, but then again, he's not a ninja character, so he's not really going to be doing much. Head is on a ball joint and on a double ball joint, so the neck is actually on a ball joint so ball joint, neck, ball joint. And he can look up decently, can crack his neck, he can spin, he can do all the things. Moving down here, drop down hinges for the legs, and the legs have got, the texturing on these legs is exceptional all the way down. Rough fabric, feels very similar to the blue jean fabric we got with Meowskulls years ago. Do I actually have my Meowskulls nearby? Let's see. I do have my Meowskulls nearby. Very similar texturing to Meowskull's legs here. Very, very similar. I love Meowskull's texturing in his legs. Like, his head texturing sucked, but oh wow, they went above and beyond with Meowskull's legs here. And here's a little comparison with Meowskull's and him together, because why not? So, texture-wise, this thing is exceptional. Double jointed knees. Doesn't really feel like he's got knee pads. It feels like that texturing goes all the way down to these boots. But we do get pants that are tucked into the boots. Boots swivel there, and then normal texturing and stuff going on with the lower leg. This character is exceptionally done. I like the Tele-Viper. I like the heads for the Tele-Viper. I like the Trouble Bubble. Final grade-wise, Cream, I'm almost done. I'll let you out in a second. So, you just had to. So, final thoughts and feelings on this character is that I will give the Trouble Bubble a grade S. That is an S quality vehicle. The texturings are just out of this world. Everything about it's out of this world. The rubber weapon is a holdup, but I'm not going to hold that back against the thing itself. If I get a 3D printed weapon and plug that in, it will be just as good, and it will be an amazing thing. I love it. S quality for the Trouble Bubble. Figure-wise, I'm going to give him a basic A quality. I think he's an exceptional figure, but I do wish he had some extra stuff on him, like a holster for a pistol and those little things. Just some little G.I. Joe stuff. And of course, they didn't pattern the bottom of his feet. And only figures that get a texture on the bottom of the feet deserve the S ranking, in my opinion. But an A rank on the action figure, S rank on the vehicle. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Until next Prime, I've been Blind Prime, and that's been Cream the Cat. Please like, share, and subscribe.